Both knee together, knee together. Look at the other side, the other side.
And just like that, I got my leg broken at a jiu-jitsu competition. Let's get these out of the way. I'm Stephen Bradley and this is my new YouTube channel, Jiu-Jitsu Mobility. I've been training Jiu-Jitsu for 4 years now and I was recently promoted to purple belt. But before that happened, I suffered an injury that turned out to be much worse than it originally seemed. So let's have a look at what happened. So this all went down at a local submission only competition. So every other time I've competed, it's been in the 30s plus masters category, but this competition only had a 40 and over masters category. So I was in there with the young bucks, which at first seemed fine. So I had competed before at white belt, finishing up first in gi and third in no gi, and earlier on this year I was in the Oceania Masters division at blue belt and I finished up second there. I was pretty keen to get a few more competitions under my belt this year, and a few of us at the gym had never competed in the submission only formats before, so we thought, hey, let's give that a crack. And the day started out alright. I got second in my gi division and I watched my teammate get first in his division. In between the gi and no gi divisions, I started to get into my own head a little bit. The intensity of the matches in gi was a little bit different than what I was expecting. Sure, they came at me pretty hard in the masters competitions I've done before, but the younger guys are just hungrier. I had a little bit of a pep talk from my wife, and one of my teammates at my gym also sat me down and said, look man, stop taking it so seriously, get out there and have some fun.
Why so serious?
So that's what I did. I ended up getting submitted pretty early. He got the better of me. So I had my second match. He grabbed a hold of my ankle early on and his was there right beside me. And look, we play around with legs a lot at the gym and I'm no stranger to still finishing off a straight leg lock when I'm kind of in the weaker position. So I went for it. Unfortunately for me, my leg snapped before he could tap. Going back over the footage, I can see now that I made some pretty simple errors. All I really needed to do was just sit over his leg. He didn't have the best control before I grabbed at his leg anyway, and it wouldn't have been too hard to just push over his leg, pull mine out and reset. Heat of the moment, coming off a loss, there's all these things that get into your head. I went for his leg, I thought I had his pretty deep, and honestly, I didn't really feel like I was in that much trouble. He wasn't twisting at the ankle, there was no pressure on the foot. He didn't have the blade of his forearm up into my Achilles, nothing like that. I felt reasonably safe. I knew it was tight, but I didn't really feel pressure until I felt pressure. Immediately after, I heard the crack, he heard the crack, the ref heard the crack. We all knew something had happened, but pain-wise, it wasn't really that bad. Like, I mean, I even sort of semi-stood up and moved into position to let him get his hand raised and then hobbled off the mat and then just sat back down. Probably adrenaline and all of that as well running through the system, but I didn't really feel too bad. It was when I couldn't really move my foot at all that I started to think, oh, look, maybe I've torn something. I've broken plenty of bones. In the moment, it didn't really feel like a broken bone. Straight after he came over, asked if I was okay, we shook hands, everything was fine. I'm sat down, my coach is there with me, a few of my teammates, my wife, my daughter comes over, puts her arm around me, Papa, Papa. It was a pretty heartbreaking little moment. A few minutes has gone by and then I look up and see my coach having an argument with the organizer. Turns out there was no medical staff on site, which was a little bit frustrating, and I could see obviously, like, you know, my coach is passionate defending me, talking legal bullshit and everything with the guy, and I mean, I'm frustrated as well, but that's not getting my leg looked at any quicker. So I said, look, let's just leave it, let's just get out of here. We've hobbled out to the car and my wife and my friend who's come over with us, we've all driven up to a medical center. We have our first x-ray and that's when I see the nature of the break. It's broken clean through. My fibula has snapped in half. The doctor on the day wasn't 100% sure the best step moving forward. I was from out of town, so he said, look, we've referred you to the medical center over there that's got a good fracture clinic, so on Monday go in and see them. Monday morning I get a call from the medical center here in Hamilton saying that they needed me to come up as soon as possible, so we've gone up and I've gone straight through to see the fracture specialist, who actually turns out to be a ex-orthopedic surgeon, so this guy knew his shit, and he was angry that I was in a moon boot. They got me out of the moon boot straight away. He put me in a back slab and a plaster cast, and he said, look, this needs surgery. I'm going to refer you on to a friend of mine who is practicing privately. 4 or 5 days go by, and then I finally get a call back from the medical center saying the private surgeons can't get me in. They've recommended it on to the hospital. I then get a call from the hospital who say, look, we're not sure if it needs surgery yet. We want you to come up and see our specialists. By the time I get up to the hospital to start to get my proper checkup with them, it's been almost 2 weeks since the initial break. So they get me in, they take me out of the cast, and they want me to do weight-bearing x-rays because they're not sure whether ligament damage has been done or not yet. I'd already had 2 professionals say it needed surgery, yet these guys are like, look, don't listen to them, you need to take our opinion. Blah blah blah. So anyway, sure enough, I have the weight bearing x-rays, which was uncomfortable. So the doctor comes back through, he's had a look at the x-rays and says, hey look, it's not conclusive, we can't really see whether the ligaments are intact or not, so we're going to book you in for surgery. What they're going to do is they're going to put you to sleep, they're going to set the x-ray up, they're going to wiggle the joint round, take some shots, see what the ankle's doing, and decide from there. So I had to go home and I had to fast from midnight, and they were going to give me a call the next morning. That process went on day after day for 6 days. Finally, the day came around for surgery, which ended up being 3 weeks after the initial accident. So anyway, they wheel me through, they give me the gas, and I wake up a few hours later in the recovery room. Still wasn't really sure what had happened. The nurses got me upstairs into what I'm now told is the hospital hotel. So that's a ward where they kind of put people that are just in for the night after surgery, send them home the next day, which is cool. You know, the conversation I had with the surgeon was I'd be out the next day. Unfortunately for me, the next day was a public holiday, and on public holidays they have a bit of a skeleton staff. Not all the doctors and surgeons are working. It wasn't until about 5:30 p.m. the nurse explained to me, look, unfortunately there's no surgeons on today. So she went down and spoke to one of the house doctors that was set up in one of the other wards. She came up, had a look through my file, signed my papers, gave me clearance, said I was okay to go, wrote me up a script, took a few photos of the x-rays, read through the surgeon's notes and said, look, this is what I think's gone on. Judging by the x-rays, I've put in the plate and they've put the tightrope through the ankle. Free to go home, no wait, you'll be back in 2 weeks. I was in a lot of pain. It was uncomfortable to move around. Every time I stood up, the blood rushed back down into my leg. It's all understandable, you know, you've got to be down with your foot up. After my 2 weeks post-op recovery period, I went back up. They checked the wounds. They put me in a moon boot. Everything's looking good. I'm in a moon boot for another 4 weeks now. No weight bearing for another 4 weeks, but I can return to exercise, which has been a godsend. So what have I been doing exercise-wise? I knew I couldn't do anything with my legs, but I've still got an upper body, right? I set up the little doorway pull-up bar and I was doing pull-ups. I brought some little grip strength machines, been working on my grip strength, but that 2 weeks post-surgery, I couldn't really do anything. I didn't really feel like doing anything. But now I've been given full clearance from the doctors to go back to exercise as long as there's no weight coming through my legs, and preferably using the seated machines at the gym, which is fine. It's exercise, right? I'm not a big fan of doing those kind of workouts, but beggars can't be choosers. So I've drawn up a 6-day upper body workout plan, working on my own little weaknesses, working on stuff that's going to help benefit me for jiu-jitsu. The reality is, it's probably going to be 3 to 6 months before I'm anywhere near training jiu-jitsu properly again. What have the biggest challenges been so far? We have a young daughter. She turns 2 in a couple of weeks, and it's been rough for her. She didn't exactly understand what was going on. She didn't really get why I can't pick her up, why I can't play with her. That's been hard to watch. It's also been hard to watch my wife have to do everything. She's got an online business. She works from home, so our daughter being in daycare gives her a bit of time during the day to work on her own things, but me being at home, especially with periods of not being mobile at all, was pretty rough. You know, I hated asking her to get up and help me with things. I can't do any of the cleaning, I couldn't do any of the cooking, I couldn't change my daughter's clothes, I couldn't help her with bedtime, I couldn't help her with bath time. Like, it's rough sitting back watching everything. And as well, I got my purple belt, which is like, it's cool. I've worked so hard for my purple belt. Getting my purple belt when I'm on a long layoff is, it's like being given the keys to a Ferrari while you're on a suspended license. But there are some silver linings. I've finally got the time to work on some of my goals I've had for the last few years. You know, I've started this YouTube channel. I've been going crazy with my content with other social media platforms, talking about everything I'm passionate about, mobility for jiu-jitsu, which is what this channel is all about. So please take this moment, like and subscribe, help my channel grow. I'm coming up with a game plan to move more into coaching at my gym. I'm not saying I'm never going to compete again, but it's not really on my mind anymore. I really want to put a lot of my knowledge of strength and conditioning and mobility into our athletes at the gym to help them get ready for competition. I want to help with the kids classes. I want to start doing privates now. So this is really giving me time to plan all that out. And of course, I get to spend so much more time with my daughter. We've been watching so much Disney. So what have I learned? Firstly, I've learned to stay in my lane. I have no place jumping in there with the young guys. Also, I don't train a whole lot of no-gi. What made me think I could jump in a new rule set with a bunch of young guys doing no-gi when I don't really have a whole lot of experience here anyway? We do a little bit of no-gi at the gym, but no-gi for me has always been more about understanding how to control the body without relying on grips so much. In jiu-jitsu, we always hear technique is key, focus on technique. But when it comes to competing with guys that have good technique but are more athletic than you, all of a sudden your great technique isn't as effective. If you can't physically get yourself into the positions, it doesn't really matter so much. Look, these guys may or may not have been better than me skill-wise in jiu-jitsu, but they definitely had enough understanding to know how to shut stuff down with technique and with strength. So at the end of the day, strength and athleticism is super important as well. Mobility is super important. Technique is just one element of jiu-jitsu, so I really need to work more on that. I'm reasonably strong, I'm reasonably fit, I hold my own, but a 20-year-old that's got nothing to do other than train, I'm pushing shit uphill thinking I can just jump straight in and compete with that. The other big takeaway I've realized since this injury is your legs aren't as sensitive as other parts of your body. You don't always feel some of those positions as threatening as, say, when they're attacking your shoulder or your elbow joint, or when they're attacking your knee or the ankle joint. In through the bone there in the leg, it's not necessarily as sensitive. You don't always know you're in danger until it's too late. So that was a big takeaway for me. I got sick of a little bit of the hate to begin with straight after the injury, people asking me, why didn't you just tap? Look, the reality is I've been in that same position multiple times and I've got the tap over an opponent that had my leg deeper. I just had the angles and everything else right. So what does the future hold for me then? The focus for the next little while is coaching, doing some privates, doing some PTs again, and putting together super helpful mobility content. So if there's something you want to focus on or you're not sure about, leave a comment. Let me know what you'd love to see on this channel. It's time to just work on rounding out my game and helping other people develop the mobility that they need to excel in jiu-jitsu. Thank you for watching the video. This is the first one of many to come on this channel. Moving forward, they're all going to be mobility, flexibility, and recovery related. Make sure you like and subscribe and jump down in the comments. Let me know what injuries you've had, how recovery is going for you, and if there's anything you'd love to see me talk about more on this channel. See you on the next one.